Hi everyone, so I've been cooking some more on the Spiritborn. You might have seen this video about this evade only build that I have been playing here. A lot of people like that. It's very fast for the fastest build, at least for most people, until maybe a very late game when the Sorcs, I guess, take over. But overall, it's actually turning out to be very good. And I've been optimizing it even further. So you might know that the Hunter is a very powerful ultimate on this class. So we have this in many builds. If you look, for example, at our max roll guides here, the Hunter has a lot of utility, gives you damage buffs, gives you ferocity stacks. So overall, Hunter is just kind of like a really big thing on this class. You see here, Hunter, 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 Hunter. Every build has Hunter basically in the end game. But not this one, turns out. And you see here, I have the Devourer. I have this big worm. This is actually my favorite ability in this entire game, I would say. It just looks so cool, like it looks amazing. It has this like imposing presence on the battlefield, and I really love playing with it. And a lot of people ask me, why do I like this over the Hunter? Well, that was the main reason for this, was that the Hunter just didn't really feel that great to play with on this build, so I looked for alternatives. And I still wanted to get my buffs for my ultimates. Now, this is a kind of like a special case here, this evade build, because as far as I know, it doesn't really work with attack speed, so you don't really care about ferocity stacks, for example. And on the other hand, I also don't really like jumping around with the Hunter on this build, because I'm constantly evading and it really interrupts the flow. So I was looking for something else, and I thought about the Devourer. Now, what is so cool about the Devourer, besides that it looks amazing? Well, it doesn't really do any damage, as you can see. If you compare this damage to my damage here, I basically insta one-shot this dummy, and this Devourer does nothing. So this is not here for any damage. In general, none of these ultimates are really here for any damage. I'm not sure, maybe we can try to cook some actual ultimate carry builds, but it seems very difficult to do, because they just don't really have enough skill ranks. They have long cooldowns, slow attack speed, and these kind of things. So maybe the closest to that would be the Seeker at some point. I actually cooked the Seeker ultimate damage build at some point, but it also has like a really long delay before you can cast it again. You need to wait like 3 seconds or so between every cast, so it's also not really great for a build of its own. Now, the reason for that is that we have these passives here, in particular Supremacy. So there's this ultimate cluster, and basically every build that picks up like one of these ults will also go for some of these passives, and Supremacy is kind of the biggest one here. The way this works is that you get stacks when you kill enemies while an ult is active, up to 10 stacks, and each point in it gives you a 10% damage. So each stack is 1% and 1% per point. Now, when the ultimate ends, you also gain 5 stacks extra. So this means that when you cast Devourer, first of all, you cannot lose stacks while Devourer is active, and then you get 5 more when it ends. So what happens is that even if you don't kill anything, I'll have 0 stacks right now, and you will see now in 3 seconds, I'll get 5 stacks. And now I cast it again, and we have 5 stacks here, and then when this thing expires, we have 10. And the cool thing is this goes to 30 stacks. And as you see here, I never lose them, because I have a 15 seconds cooldown of a 15 seconds duration. Boom, we just cast it on cooldown. We have our worm with us all the time, and we get a total of 90% damage buff from this thing at some point. Now this has to ramp up a little bit, of course. The good thing is that when you start a run, then usually you get the 10 stacks pretty fast from just like killing something instantly. So you start the first run with 10, then it ends, it's 15, and then you have to cast it 3 more times until you ramped fully to 90% damage bonus. Now you can even get more ranks as a Supremacy. So for example, there's an item, the wudijo, that I will try to cook with as well at some point, but it's this here. So you can actually get 8 extra ranks to Supremacy, and each of those ranks is 30% damage. So you can actually go from a 90% damage bonus to a 330% damage bonus like this. So in total, this is like a 3.3 damage multiplier, basically. So it's pretty good. And there is maybe something here with that weapon, but only like the really high end, and only for very specific builds, because you have this problem that, yeah, you don't really have any tempers, you don't have an aspect on it, and all of this stuff is pretty large. But maybe there is something here, just because it is passive, and because of this combo here with the Devourer. So this is really the main reason. And this is certainly something I also want to explore in some other endgame builds as well. Especially, I think pushing builds might profit from the Devourer in some cases more than the Hunter. I think the Hunter is still the overall by far best ultimate on this class, but there is a reason to sometimes use some of the other ultimates. But yeah, Hunter is just kind of hard to beat because, you know, you jump around a bit, and you know, like you're just fast, right? You do like this incredible jump, boom, and you can do this like every few seconds. Sometimes it resets its own cooldown, and if you also like temper, for example, some cooldown reduction, like I did now with the Devourer here. So we have, you know, Devourer cooldown on 3 pieces. This is not even like crazy rolls or crazy masterwork or something. This is enough to just get perma Devourer with a 15 seconds cooldown. And I have no other cooldown reduction, just those 3 tempers. Now something like this is a bit harder to do on the Hunter, for example. And also whenever it gives you ferocity, and this is your only source of ferocity, then your stacks will slowly start taking down. So then you have to cast it again every few seconds. Devourer just kind of leaves you ready to do anything else for 15 seconds every time. And in my case, for example, I'm doing my evade stuff here, and then the Devourer comes back in a second, and then I interrupt it for, you know, ding, and we go again. And it's like very smooth for this evade build in particular. You just kind of like chilling for 15 seconds. I barely even press my other buttons. So sometimes I press my armored hide, sometimes my counter attack, and then I look at my bar and we see here, okay, the worm is gone, we cast again, and you see the stacks are ramping here. So this is why that works. And technically you can do something like that even faster with the Seeker. Seeker has the advantage that it lasts very short, and you can spam it with like the Seeker charges. It comes with 3 charges by default, but there's also a resource temper to get more charges. So you can get like, you know, 10, 15 charges of the Seeker or something. So not only can you ramp your supremacy really hard, really fast. So, you know, if you, I don't know, do like boss rotations, for example, there's this option. If you just want to like one-shot bosses or something. But also you can get resolution. Resolution is another really strong passive. So I have 3 points in that, but I don't really have great uptime. But it can give you like this 3 seconds of like a nuke window where you have resolution, and you do a lot of extra damage. In this case, with 3 points, you deal 30% extra damage. It's that 10% per point against elites at least, or against bosses rather. So if there's like a single boss, you do 30% extra damage. So this is really where the damage matters anyway. And in this case, for example, with the Seeker, you can have this nearly permanently as well. If you go to the boss, and let's say it's not like a boss fight that lasts like a minute or something, but you have, you know, like I say, a sub 30 seconds kill, and you have 10 Seeker charges, then you just like pop down a Seeker every 3 seconds, bam, 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 and so on. And you get resolution all the time, you get your supremacy ramped really fast, and there you go. Now the thing is that the Seeker in like, you know, like a pit scenario, you have to cast it very often, and it doesn't last very long. So this will, for example, lead to less bonus here throughout the run, but then like a bigger bonus of this one here at the boss, for example. And yeah, for the Devourer, in my case, I ramped the supremacy, and then it's going to be at 30 stacks, basically half the run. And yeah, we have this here sometimes. This is kind of like why Devourer is used. I really love it though. I really hope that we would also get some actual build where we, I don't know, control the Devourer or buff the Devourer and actually have like a real like Devourer carry build, but we're not quite there. Lastly, we have the Protector. Protector is kind of looking cool, but has many issues. Number one is that it's stationary, so it lasts for a long time, and we don't really care about staying in the same place for 6 seconds most of the time. And outside of that, the barrier is also buggy, so it doesn't actually give you the barrier that it says. It scales with your base life, not with your maximum life. So the barrier gain is like 50 or something like that. So that's completely pointless. Otherwise, I think if that was fixed, then Protector might see some users when you want to be like really tanky. But again, you have this stationary problem, so you need to have like a very short cooldown, and then maybe in like a pit push or something. And then against the bosses, you can kind of just like pump the Protector, and you have like this insane barrier all the time. But I guess if you want to rely on something like the Protector, then you need some really, really short cooldowns, because it lasts 6 seconds and the barriers only last 1.5 seconds. So you need to cast it at least once every 7.5 seconds. So just doing like what I do here with the Devourer, for example, with the cooldown tempers is not really enough. Harlequin Crest is not really an option on many Spiritborn builds. So this is something like you have to get some cooldown reduction, and then probably the Jackan's Shell in order to reduce it further, and then you could play something like the Protector, but as long as it's bugged, that's not really a thing anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to share this about the Devourer really quick. So it's because a lot of people seem to not really be aware of this combination here with, you know, the supremacy stacks and having this long-lasting ultimate. So this is like a really powerful tool that you can use here for your builds. And as I said, I will probably go back and explore some of those options, maybe on some of the other builds here, and see if at least for pit pushing, I could actually imagine that the Hunter is not necessarily so required if you have another good source of ferocity and you don't hyperscale your ferocity stacks. And we maybe are able to remove the Hunter on some of those builds. But again, this is mostly just for like, I don't know, pit 90 plus or something like that. We'll see. But yeah, this is what I wanted to share here. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope this helps you also with your own cooking or so if you're doing your own builds. And stay tuned for more. See you guys next time.